Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Any comments, any inquiries, drop them in the chat. We would love to hear from you, where you're from, and also what intrigued you about joining today's session. Anything, don't worry, drop it in there, and we do have time for questions at the end. So we do have two companies and a couple presenters today. So I'm going to introduce the companies first to set the stage, and then the individuals. First, xMatters. We are a service reliability platform that helps DevOps, SREs, and operations teams automate workflows, ensure infrastructure and applications are always working so that you can rapidly deliver products at scale. We have a code-free workflow builder, an adaptive approach to incident management, and real-time analytics. And now introducing Dynatrace. They are an all-in-one platform with automation and intelligence at the core that covers all the disciplines of observability, and that includes, I'm going to read those purple boxes left to right, infrastructure monitoring, APM, application security, digital experience management, digital business analytics, and cloud automation with AI ops built in. And now the individuals. I am your host, Ann Deming. I'm from xMatters. I also have with me Eric Maxwell and Rob Jan. Eric is a solution architect with xMatters. Previously, he spent 8 years at a large hardware corporation going through a digital transformation. He's had roles as a product manager, managing SREs and operations, implementing DevOps concepts, and he's worked a wide range of projects, platform transformations, converting to containers, and implementing microservices. Rob Jan on the right-hand side is a DevOps advocate and technical partner manager at Dynatrace. He supports market research and shaping strategic technology partner roadmaps. Rob develops and leads technical workshops and is a frequent speaker and blogger, so he might look familiar to you if you've seen him speak before. And prior to Dynatrace, Rob was a technical services director, advising and building successful software, DevOps, and test automation solutions. So now that I've introduced the players here, you probably have an inkling of why we've brought everybody together today. We're going to focus on helping you address some specific challenges when monitoring. Traditional monitoring might be siloed for you. It isn't granular enough. Maybe you only have one piece of the puzzle, so your service and your business teams aren't getting the full picture. Maybe you're having issues connecting people with data. And if I had to boil it down to one main point here, is that you are probably facing too much manual work. And if you're struggling with any one of the issues that you see on the screen here, it means that your mean time to identify, to respond, and or to resolve is going to suffer. So the technology demonstration that you're about to see addresses those very issues. What you need is observability and flexible notifications working with innovative AI ops, and you absolutely need the ability to leverage end-to-end automation. And that is where we bring xMatters and Dynatrace together for you. So we're going to take full advantage of the next 25 minutes. So let's move on to the demonstration. Eric and Rob, over to you.
Thanks, Ann. Let me share my screen here. Awesome. So before we get into the demo, I'm just going to give a little overview of our setup. So what we have is we have an application. It's got several services involved, a front-end service with a few back-end services, and we are have some load, customer load going on this. So what we've done is just now is we've actually implemented a new feature in one of our services, the customer service, which is going to actually cause some issues with our application that Dynatrace is going to detect and start to analyze. And once it's done with that, it's actually going to send a trigger to xMatters, an alert letting us know that there's been an issue detected and give us some details on that. We will then start our automated workflows, which will do things like gather some extra information, keep systems up to date on the incident, create an incident, and then also work with the remediation. And then once it's remediated, and then finally we'll have it remediated at the end. Within it, we will be sending notification to we'll have on-call, and within it, they'll have several options. There'll be acknowledge, just acknowledge. We'll have, we talked about auto remediation. So in our case, we're going to have an option to roll back. And then you could do things like escalate right from the notification as well. That's if you're busy and you don't have, you're the on-call person, you're busy on something else and you can't, you can push the escalation on to the next person. While we're doing these things, we're also going to be keeping, xMatters is going to be keeping Dynatrace, the Dynatrace problem up to date with activities that are happening, along with the xMatters incident. So we will create an incident automatically, and we'll keep that up to date with all the actions that are taking place. And then for team communication and even broader communication, we will also be keeping all the actions and things that are happening, notifications into a Slack channel. And we'll have several Slack channels, and we'll show those in the demo for various purposes. All right, so I'm going to move over to Rob, and he is going to walk through the app and some of Dynatrace.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, so thank you for everyone attending today. Yeah, please don't hesitate to put some questions in the little the Zoom chat. We're happy to answer those and can kind of moderate things as they come in. But yeah, we definitely want you guys to see what we're doing, because it's all about, you know, tying two platforms together. So Ann mentioned, you know, Dynatrace has a platform that monitors, you know, on-premise applications, a lot of things with the cloud. And what today we're going to show is you know, the ability of Dynatrace to kind of monitor that and then feed, you know, workflow tools for incident management with xMatters. So we're going to go a little bit back and forth. I'm going to show you a little bit about what the app is, what it looks like, how it's monitored in Dynatrace, and then we're going to flip back to Eric, and he's going to walk through, you know, how the flow designer and how all these communications take place from that side. So I'm going to share my screen. So one, if you guys want to see this app, the app is an open source app that I've collaborated with some people on to build. So it's all in GitHub, and it explains this application here, how it's set up. You can deploy it. Everything that I'm doing is that Eric and I set up. You guys can do yourself. It can run how we're doing it now on an EC2 instance set up as Docker Compose. It can also be deployed out to a Kubernetes environment as well. But just what the app looks like, because this is where customers are coming into the app. It's just an order processing app, you know, just for demo purposes. We have things like, it's really kind of set up as a catalog shopping cart kind of thing. So we have customers, you can look at customers, you can look at orders and things like that. And so the problem that we're going to introduce, just so you get a little understanding of the problem we're created, built into the app are a couple of different problem patterns. So one, what we just did for when Eric triggered the new release of the code, we're now going to, as we run into this functionality of the customer list, it's going to cause a response time slowdown. We kind of simulated it as sleeping. We also have other problems built in. The one I'm going to show later is around failure rates, also hitting a different URL, which is going to cause failure. So this is what we're looking for Dynatrace to pick up. So let me jump into the environment. So Dynatrace, just as a platform, can run in two different modes. We're running it in SaaS here. It can also, customers can install the Dynatrace platform and run it themselves, either in the cloud or the data center. But what I'm logged into here is the Dynatrace web UI. And what we have set up in advance are two copies of the app. We have a staging version and a production version. So Eric triggered off a production problem. And what we've done is, and I'll show you how we configure this. In Dynatrace, we can segment our two environments. So if we were to look at the production environment, we can see those services that Eric mentioned, a front end and different services. So how Dynatrace is monitoring things is we have installed what's called a one agent. So Dynatrace isn't primarily for the deep, what we call full stack monitoring, is all done through an agent that's run in the host. So it can be installed on Windows, on Linux. And so what we have here is this one host that we're running everything on. And just to show you how that picked up in Dynatrace is we are, you know, as you'd expect at the host level, we're seeing things like, oh, this is in Google Cloud. We can see the IP address. We can see kind of host level metrics. But more importantly, we're seeing all of the processes that are running on this box. And what Dynatrace calls this is a full stack. So one way we can see this real quick in Dynatrace is what we call a Smartscape view. So what it automatically did was, by having this host level information, it detected all the processes that are running on this host. And we can see here we have a couple of different Tomcat instances which are running in Docker. So we have our catalog, we have our order, we have our customer, and each of these in turn are serving up an individual web service, which is what we're interacting with. And then the front end is actually written in Node, and then it comes up with a front end website. So we can now see this whole stack all lit up automatically where they're one agent. So what's important here is we want to understand the relationships between services and applications, the processes that serve up those services. And that's really what we're looking for Dynatrace to do. So let me just jump into one of these services that Eric has triggered a problem on. And we can see already that the problem is happening in our environment. But if we start with our front end application service, we now have a view in Dynatrace where we can see things that are happening at the service level. So we know it's a node service. We can see it's, what port it's listening on. And what we're looking for in this case for our demo is a lot of the dynamic web transactions. So if we look at the transactions themselves, we can see time series data. So what we're seeing now is a response time has gone up since Eric has triggered this problem. And we can see that the response time is going up, but it's also limited to a particular transaction here, which is our customer list. So if clicking on this, we can now filter this list, and we can see already that the response time went from a couple milliseconds to now a 5-second response time. And that in turn caused a problem to be opened. So, and so if we go to the actual problem screen, there's sort of a built-in navigations to now look at a problem. And so what we can see is we have a response time problem. It's been open for a couple of minutes. We can see that it's impacted a couple services. It's the front end, but the front end, the reason the front end is slow is because it's calling the back end on this particular method, and it figured that out. And so what's happened now, and I'm going to switch it over to Eric now shortly, is now this has in turn triggered the workflow back to xMatters. So a problem has been raised, and we set up a notification to come when this problem was open to push it into xMatters. So with that, I'm going to switch it back to Eric so then he can walk you through now how xMatters is picking this up.
Thanks, Rob. So you'll see here on my phone, I've received the notification, but just to go into a little more detail here about what we've got. This is our flow. This is Flow Designer within xMatters. You'll see here, this is where xMatters has received the notification from Dynatrace. We actually have a step here that we're gathering a little more problem information from Dynatrace. We make a decision on, is this a production alert or not? And then in our case it is, and then we're actually checking to see if it's an open or resolve. We check a few things to see if there's any other active events running. And then here, I'm gonna go through some of the other steps that are happening with incidents and keeping the systems up to date. But then also, this is a critical issue in our case, and so we will be creating some channels and some updating some other, our Dynatrace and Slack. Let me jump over to the notification here on the right. You'll see that I have this notification we've created. So we have here xMatters, we created an incident. I'll jump in that in a moment. And then we have the information from Dynatrace. Zoom in a little bit and help you see that. But we have links to the problem, what the problem was, the severity, and then the details of that alert. So we can also open that up. But then we also have several options right from the notification. So we can respond here. So I'm going to go ahead and respond really quick here. Let everybody know I'm working on it.
And I'll just point out that what Eric's showing is this is the xMatters mobile app. So he's sort of doing a screen display of his mobile phone. So what's happened is the alert has been configured to route to the on-call person. So that's another feature of the workflow. And so now he's logging in as sort of that support engineer, and the workflow is presenting him these various options that we described earlier. So like acknowledgement and escalate and things like that. So just add a little bit to what he's showing you.
So I'm jumped over to Slack. So this is our production alerts channel. This is a static channel that we just post all production alerts into. But you'll see here that I had this new alert come in as the problem, the link to the problem. So I can click that and open it up, right? I can also jump into the incident in xMatters. So we have the incident, and it's going to have the same problem information. We'll have our timeline of things that are happening. You'll see where I acknowledged and also my comment. And then I'm going to jump back over to Slack, but we also, since this is a critical issue, we opened up a channel specifically for this incident. Where I do that, you'll see here too, where we notify the app team, and then Kevin Flynn, that's me, that's who I'm pretending to be here. He has responded and now is engaged on this incident. Let me jump back over to Slack. So you'll see here, we also have a reply here with the incident channel and the alerts. But I opened up this incident channel, or it automatically opened it for us. You'll see here that it's keeping up with all the things that are actions that are happening, where it notified me, and then Rob is on call as well, so it notified him as well on his various devices. And then I didn't answer it quick enough, so it did escalate to Alan. And now here's where I acknowledged it. Right, so we can see all these escalations that are happening, and this is all handled by that flow that I was just showing in Flow Designer. There, Rob just joined. Let me jump over to, got a bunch of windows, the problem here. So you'll also see in the comments of the problem that we're also adding this information in here. Here's the incident, the channel that was created, then the delivery information, and also the acknowledgements that we're also keeping the problem up to date with what's going on. So our other options here are, so we have escalate. I'm not going to do that one. That's, again, like I was saying earlier, that allows you, instead of following the automated escalation process, if I'm busy and I can't answer it, I'm the person on call, I can force to escalate to the next person immediately. But in our case, I'm actually going to run a rollback. So we've looked at the incident and we've looked at the alert information and decided, okay, we just deployed a new version and it seems to be causing problems. So let's roll back this version. So rolling back.
And I think what's important here is like what we're showing is really the integration between a couple tools. People are going to be interacting with tools like Microsoft Teams or Slack, as we have in this example. And so what the power of the workflow is, we've integrated a number of tools really through the APIs that are available. So when Eric is showing it, what's happened in Flow Designer, it's has some steps that make the chat channel, put updates back to Dynatrace and things like that. And then this rollback feature is just, again, something we've built to call the web app. There's a little sort of feature flag, if you will, that will then flip the flag and perform the quote unquote rollback. So it's just really kind of showcasing quite a few things that are all triggered off of these, what you can do either from the mobile app or right from Slack itself.
And so as far as the responses go, you can see here how we're managing this in Flow Designer. We have our various responses and then the flows that are assigned to these and the steps that Rob was mentioning, like a step here that we're adding a comment to the problem, we're posting information to our channel. In our case, we have our little app and we just have a little step that's swapping the version back for us, but this could be an integration into your CI/CD tool to do the same type of actions, or runbook tool, whatever you're using, right? So,
right.
All right. So I was going to show the incident real quick. Find it. But in the incident, right, there's several things you can do here. We can put it in progress. We're working on it. Of course, and this is all going to get added to the timeline as we change the progress. We could change the severity if we wanted. We could add other resolvers. We could update description and those types of things as well.
And you can see right there in the comments, the second one down, rollback successful. So this is, again, our automation scripts. Like I said, this is sort of like we're pretending we have an automated run book here. The tools themselves are pushing back what's happening, as the ticket. So we're really informing, because the whole idea is that we want to, over communicate, let the automation do it, let our business users, let our dev users, let our production users all know what's happening here and collaborate on this.
And you'll see that here in Slack, we're doing posting the same type of information there.
And even over in Dynatrace, right, we have the problem was also being updated with these different comments too. So that way we're kind of really informing everybody. And then with all these hyperlinks, it's easily to go, it's easy to navigate back to the problem, back to Slack, back to the incident within xMatters. So Dynatrace has an API as well to push comments back into the Dynatrace problem. So the incident is being managed by xMatters, but the problem, if you will, is within Dynatrace, and it also has the ability to, it has a life cycle. It also has these kind of comments that can be pushed to it.
And then we're going to run another. I'm going to jump back over to Rob, and he's going to show another tool that we've integrated with called Captain with one of their tools. So I'm going to jump back to Rob and let him explain that one.
Yeah, so what we've done now is, we detected a problem, we've, informed our team, we have, actually initiated a rollback, but now we want to know, is the service level back to where we want them to be? And so I want to introduce just another thing that Dynatrace has been working on in this domain area for service levels. And so we've been working on a project called Project Captain, and I'll just, we can share these links to it, but there's an open source initiative that we've done around, showing how to, do things in a, automated cloud native kind of orchestration, whether it's from the delivery to the remediation of automated remediations of problems. So what we're doing here is an automated SLO validation, and I'll show you how the concept here. So what we want to do, and this was all inspired a lot from the DevOps books. Google has a whole SRE handbook that really defines the concept of service level indicators and service level objectives. And so what we want to do is codify this so that it can be automated. So the idea is I can have a series of indicators with a particular, range of, response times, of passing or warning. And then as I perform a particular evaluation, it'll factor all of the metrics in the case to have an overall kind of objective or goal. So if I do a particular build, I could have a series of metrics that come in, and this time I pass. I can do another build, and I can have a series of metrics that maybe give me a warning. So the idea is this. And so how we've implemented it, because I know just for sake of time, jump into this, what we have is set up one of these Captain services that is communicating with our Dynatrace environment. And then what are the features of, one of the ways you can do the definition of these SLOs is through a dashboard. So what we have in Dynatrace is a custom dashboard where we've chosen the different metrics that we want, like response time, failure rates, things around the host, and defined, and you can see kind of in this header, if I zoom in a bit, that we have a criteria that the 95 percentile must be less than 600 milliseconds, for example. So I can actually look at this chart for my environment and kind of look at it here real time. But then if you want to go ahead and click the button, Eric, for the evaluate SLO. So what Captain is doing, just to show mechanically what's happening now behind the scenes, let me just get to the next slide, is he's clicking this button, run SLO validation. And what it's doing is making an API call into Captain, which is can be configured to have multiple services. One of the services is this SLO service that is now collecting the SLO data from Dynatrace. And then when it's finished its valuation, it does a couple things. One, it will push it into a database where you have a persistent store of the results, which can then be visualized in this, what we call a bridge, which I'm going to show you. And then it can also push back, the fact that it had this event, and what Eric has in our Slack channel is the SLO results link. So now if I actually go to my Slack, see if we can do this here. So I have the same Slack channel. I'm in the same team as him. So you can see here, he's done this evaluation result from the app. And if I click on it, it's now going to open up my Captain bridge to that specific evaluation. So what we're seeing in Captain here is, again, this is what's called the bridge. And for different services, we're looking at in this case, we're evaluating the front end service. So this evaluation that was just done by Eric, 1125, goes through a little workflow. So it starts an evaluation, it retrieves the metrics, it gathers the metrics, and then performs an evaluation. So this chart that we're looking at is, on the time series is every time this evaluation was done. And these were the metrics that I was interested in monitoring. And at the bottom here, it kind of shows you, whether I was meeting my criteria or not. So the time frame that we had it was when the problem was still active. So you can see, like, we were having response times of like 5 seconds, which is for this service, and which is not what we want. So that's why it failed. So this is kind of what's happening in the concept of SLO validation. So this can be done as we did here, where we roll back a change. We want to evaluate whether it met it, and done it in an automated way. So now, right from a click of a button, we don't even have to really go into Dynatrace or anywhere else to establish whether that SLO is met. And then, of course, you could come to an actual dashboard and see the behavior of their app to see if it's actually meeting what you want for further analysis. So
that is great, Rob and Eric. I might have to chime in if I can still control that, because we do have a host of questions coming in, but I also want to make sure, and I'll toss them to you guys in just a second. Let me share my screen. I will just point out that there's actually a mutual customer, Experian. You probably are familiar with the name. I will actually direct you to our website, xmatters.com. There is an hour overview that you can watch that goes into detail about how powerful this use case is. But I would say that the benefit that Experian said, which is highlighted, is that their engineers, you might remember my comments about manual work and how much that can slow you down. They said that their engineers aren't wasting time gathering data. Instead, their highly skilled resources are performing high value roles and resolving issues quicker. So let's go to questions. I was jotting them down left and right. Why don't we start first? Is xMatters an out-of-the-box integration for Dynatrace? Eric or Rob, who wants to get that answer? I can tell you if it's right.
I can tell you, it is.
It is indeed. Thank you very much for that. This question is actually for Rob. Can you get SLOs in Dynatrace to detect and alert via xMatters if the SLO is breached?
Yes. Yes. So yeah, and that's exactly right. So we didn't cover all the ways Dynatrace can do SLOs. We have multiple ways we can do SLOs. So each of those things can trigger basically custom alerts that can then, and Eric didn't show it, but basically when the way we're bridging Dynatrace to xMatters is we're raising a trigger from Dynatrace that pushes a trigger into the workflow on the xMatters side. So these SLOs can be defined. We were looking at service metrics and host level metrics, but there's also user session metrics. Dynatrace has this whole language called user session queries. So behavior of the users can also be turned into SLOs. So there's a lot of ways to do SLOs, but that's
excellent.
Yep.
Eric, the demo was using xMatters Incident Management. What if you already have an incident or issue management tool?
Yeah, that's a common case for us. So lots of our customers already have an incident management. So, we can integrate with, pretty much any incident management tool. We also have customers that use a combination of our incident management and their incident management, just to take advantage of the features where I was showing you could see the collaboration channels and the timeline and the engagement of who was involved in that incident. So they'll, either we can integrate and we can actually run them both in parallel to complement each other.
Wonderful. And I know we're at the bottom of the hour, so let me close with some final thoughts. Both companies, xMatters and Dynatrace, give you the ability to try the solutions. So xmatters.com/signup or dynatrace.com/trial. Please go check them out. And also we have some upcoming webinars. Obviously, the ones not bolded are xMatters, Adaptive Incident Management, Event Flood Control, and Chat Ops with MS Teams. But you'll notice March 25th, we're doing another joint session that's hosted by Bright Talk. So obviously we only scratched the surface here. Please take note of that date if you want more. And as always, the conversation doesn't have to end here. Please go find us on social media, pick your poison, whether it's Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook. There's a lot of good information to be had and to share. So I know we just wanted to end on time. Eric and Rob, thank you so much for giving us an overview of the solutions. To all of you who have joined, thank you so much and for sharing your thoughts and questions. We're going to conclude today's webinar. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.